So, have you ever been in a relationship where somebody tells you that they love you, but their actions are saying something totally different and off? So much so that it makes you question if they even know what love is. Or for that point, do you even know? Because sometimes it could be so crazy that you can even start questioning yourself on whether or not you know what love is. So that's what we're going to talk about today on God equals reality. Because as we had brought up so many times before, God is reality and his word is our reality. And that's where all of our answers are and where everything comes from. So, speaking about love, um, our good book, God's book, the Bible, speaks on that. In fact, it's in Corinthians 13:4, and it tells us all the characteristics that love should display, a true love, a godly love, because God is love. Right, nephew?
That's right. That's right. God is most definitely love. God is the definition of love.
Exactly. Just like he is reality. And one of the first characteristics that it says about love is that it suffers long and it endures. And that to me is like, you know, one of the most important things because this life has some crazy twists and turns sometimes, stuff that just out of your control kind of crazy. And it can affect relationships. It can affect, the way you see things, maybe some things that you do. And just knowing that things can happen and out of your control and you're in a relationship with somebody, you just have to know and understand that, you know, love can endure that. A true love, a real love, a faithful love can endure anything that comes your way if that's exactly what it is. So long suffering and endurance. And then,
Or
of
what we
course, go ahead. Hmm.
or what we would, long suffering has also been
Patience.
equated to being patient.
Yes, yes, most
Uh,
definitely.
and patience, as pointed out before, patience is the first thing that describes God's version of love, God's definition of love. Long suffering and patience is the very first thing that he tells you about it.
Hmm. And how important that patience is. I think about, I've always heard people say, you better be careful if you ask God for patience. Have you ever heard people say that?
Yeah,
Yes. And it's
yeah.
because patience means that he's about to probably take you through some stuff so that you are forced to be patient. And, how else, to learn patience is going through something that you can't do nothing about, but go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. So, yeah,
Exactly.
most definitely. And being kind, just kind person, being kind to one another because, that has to be present. And when I'm talking about kind, I'm talking about speaking kind words. I know that James says you could either bring life or death with the power of your tongue. That's saying something right there, right?
Yeah.
Definitely makes you, want to stop and think about the words that come out of your mouth, just knowing that according to God, it's either life or death that's about to come out of your mouth. Which one is it? So,
It
yeah,
was
pay attention to the
also
words.
why also why he says the truth should be speaking with grace, seasoned with salt. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, grace means means to give a gift. So you want to give somebody a gift that tastes well because some stuff, main seasoning for most food is salt. So to understand the breakdown of that, it is to give someone the message that they can digest, not to uh, not to give them something that that if they're not getting it, they're not understanding it. It's our duty to try to rephrase or give them the message in a way that they can digest.
Exactly. And that kind of reminds me about giving somebody milk opposed to food. When you're a baby, there's a reason why babies can only have milk when they're young, when they're newborns, because they can't digest solid foods yet. And that's pretty much what you're saying, right? And that's going into um, knowing and recognizing where someone is. If, they may not be able to handle, you know, the truth in a certain way, then come at them, in a lighter way so that you're still telling the truth, but you're seasoning it with the salt where you know that they can handle and receive it, because that's so important. Just recognizing um, how people, where they are and meeting them where they are. Is it a milk situation or is it some solid foods
Mhm.
for the most part? The other one that it speaks of is not being envious or jealous. You know, um, never understood why sometimes in relationships it seems like it's a battle to a battle with each other opposed to a cohesive partnership. And sometimes, that whole jealousy thing, it could be disguised, you know, in certain kind of ways, but it should never be in that way, if I'm making sense. I think it's just about the way that you're looking at the situation in a relationship. Are you feeling me? Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. I was thinking of a great example of that I was this was put on by another pastor, Pastor
Hmm.
Miles Monroe, who's sadly not with us anymore. He showed an example basically of this of why we envy. We envy because, especially in a relationship, we're focused on our partner where they're
Hmm.
right in front of us. And he makes the analogy talking about the armor of God, saying that the only place that the armor doesn't cover is your back.
Okay. Yes.
Saying that
Yes.
that's what your spouse is for because you're supposed to be back to back.
Hmm.
And it says and when you have back to back and all the armor of God facing outward, the more and more that the world pushes on you this way, you guys fuse together. But if you're facing each other and you're looking at each other, the only place that they're going to attack is your back. And then when you attack your back, all you see is your spouse looking at you. So you intend to blame them or blame your partner because you're looking at them. And then it keep getting hit in the back, and she keep getting hit in the back, and you keep getting hit in the back until you two are just at each other because you're too focused on each other when you need to be focused on the actual enemy.
Yeah, that's that envious. I guess I'm trying to think of some other. So how would that situation bring jealousy in?
Well, it would be all. It would be jealousy, envy, anger, lack of
Mhm.
patience, lack of kindness. It would trigger a whole effect to take you out of what God would want you to be, as He describes as love. But it would just either in comparison, you would see that would be, you could even take that out of just a relationship with just an actual spouse. You could say,
Mhm.
you know, you
Friends.
friends that you're supposed to kind
Hmm.
of be back to back with friends. It's also how you guys are gonna, have each other's back, but you can only do that if both of y'all are if two people can only walk together if except if agreed.
Hmm.
So that's the only way you guys would have. Otherwise, you'd be focused on each other, focused on comparisons, focused on envy, focused on jealousy. Just because you know you wouldn't see this person as with the way you need to see them. As being as a part of you.
Correct.
As like we're all part of the same thing, but we're cut and we have different assignments and different purposes.
Hmm.
Um,
And then I think jealousy really comes about by also being too worried and too consumed about what somebody else is doing opposed to what you're doing, you know, like,
right,
or how somebody else is looking or what somebody else has opposed to what you have, and appreciating you for who you are and who God made you to be.
right. And like my gifts are not your gifts are not
Hmm.
my gifts. My assignment is not your assignment. My purpose is not your purpose. Your purpose is not my purpose, and your assignment is not my assignment. Though
Exactly.
that's the breakdown of why you should compare and you should celebrate.
Yeah. You should celebrate differences,
Hmm.
celebrate what each one brings to the table.
Hmm.
Because when you're both bringing something to the table and you're recognizing the differences of, what each one is bringing to the table, then you can appreciate that and it becomes an asset opposed to, you know, anything negative at all.
Right. And you need to bring different things to the table.
Hmm.
Don't nobody want to eat two chickens.
Exactly.
They want some sides to go with that.
Hmm. You know what else that reminds me of is the saying that says that people say opposites attract. And I was thinking about that the other day. And I'm like, I know my experience in opposites, it definitely didn't attract. It seems like it caused more confusion and chaos than anything. And I think it's about what opposites you're speaking of, you know. Because if it's something really big, it's like something where it's, difference in religion or differences in the way you see things, the world, and that can definitely clash at
So,
some point.
yeah, that leads back into two cannot walk in the same direction except agreed.
Hmm. Hmm. But if you're talking about a short and a tall and a big and a skinny, those kind of things, that's cool. That kind of opposite. And I think sometimes people just take that and run with it in feeling that hey, we're so opposite that we can bring different things to the table. But you definitely got to pay attention to the opposites and making sure that it's not affecting your values or your morals to that point.
Hmm.
Hmm. The other one, not being boastful or pride or proud, which is another big one. You know, I cleaned up the whole house and I cooked and I did.
Yeah,
What are
naming
you
all your
doing? Right?
accolades, what you're doing.
Exactly. Like, shouldn't you do that? Like, are you doing it for me or are you doing it because it needs to be done?
Hmm.
Right?
And,
Uh,
and the thing is that leads me back to we do all things through Christ. Just like he
mm-hmm,
says, all things were created through Christ.
mm-hmm.
So there's nothing you can do without Christ. There's nothing that you
Exactly.
do. There's nothing that's here that you take for credit for. Like that's the reason that God can't be vain.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can't be like, this is saying that it's not bragging, it's not boasting if it's true.
Mm.
Like he has nothing to boast about because he did everything. Everything that he said he's not right. He is everything. He did everything. He created everything. He can't be vain. He
He
gave you
cannot be
all the ability to do
vain. Hmm.
everything that you can do. So that's why it is blasphemous for you to be proud.
Hmm. Yes. Also reminds me of the scripture about it's something on the order of how he created you and how you would complain. Um, says something on the order of um complaining like, why did you make me this way? And he's like, should be glad that you're just being made, you know? Be grateful that I made you, opposed to, why I made you this way. And which also ties into, loving yourself, because in when recognizing that God made you perfect and complete, because loving yourself is part of the whole possibility of having a healthy relationship. You can't have a healthy relationship if you don't recognize and love yourself. It's impossible to love anyone else until you learn to love yourself or know how to love yourself. And love yourself meaning the self that God created, not vanity, not any type of boastfulness, but just, recognizing that you're a soul that God created, perfect and unique, and that when you feel that way about yourself, it's so much easier to love other people.
And that's a very tricky one because you can say, well, how do I love myself without being selfish? Right?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I would say to simplify that, it would be to love yourself is not to love your pride and ego, which a lot of people identify with their pride and ego,
Hmm.
and that leads to selfishness.
Yes, it does. And I guess I'm thinking more on the order of loving yourself as you love your neighbor as yourself,
Hmm.
um, in that whole great commandment. So there's a reason why it's important to love yourself, because if God commands us to love our neighbor as ourselves, then we first got to know how to love ourselves. Because if we don't love ourselves, then we're not going to be loving our neighbor either.
Exactly. So if you aren't being patient with yourself, you ain't gonna be patient with somebody else. You're not kind to yourself. You're not being kind to somebody else.
Correct.
And if you're like and this is a deeper one, but envious. You can be envious, and definitely boastful, but you can be envious and jealous of what you used to be able to do, and beat yourself up and not be kind about that.
Okay, give me an example.
Just literally, just how you used to look, how you used to be able to
Okay.
fit into this. You used to be able to wear this. You used to be able to play this. You used to be able to, and
Mhm.
you'll beat yourself up and be unkind to yourself because you're envying something that you need to take responsibility for. You can probably work and get better and regain the skill, regain the talent, or something like that, or get yourself back in shape. That's also part of loving yourself too. You weren't taking care of yourself. You weren't prolong to prolong the gift or the thing that you used to be able to do really well. You didn't work at the skill. That's all also part of loving yourself, but it can turn into an envy of a past self of yourself. So it's very ways you don't know how to love yourself.
Interesting. Okay. And I never thought of it that way. I think I've always looked at it as, if I can't do what I used to do, I need to move on and find something else to do.
Yeah. I mean that's one way you can look at it. But I know a lot of people still stay stuck in a place and don't move forward, or don't feel like they can regain or to do this or that, all, yeah, that's the guy I used to be, and they just defeated, the whole
Mm.
time. They don't move on to really find something else or feel like they're good at anything anymore.
Okay, yeah, and that's definitely something that would need to be dealt with and recognized. And I think the key is recognizing when, someone sounds like that's like stuck in the past
Hmm.
kind of situation instead of moving forward. I know most people, just like fine wine, get better with time.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like that, right? And I
Hmm.
think that if you're not feeling like you're getting better or you're growing, then that's a whole nother issue right there. So, hmm, some interesting things to think about, most definitely. Um, but we're going to have to revisit this and continue this conversation again on love. And love is so important, not just in, a husband and a wife, but in any type of relationship, and in a neighboring relationship, in a coworker relationship, in friendships, and in yourself. Loving yourself and knowing that God made you perfect and complete in exactly the way He wanted you to be, and how important it is for you to recognize and understand that, and what type of growth that will give and bring to the table for both you and anyone else in your life. When you recognize who you are and love the person that God created you to be, that is going to definitely make a difference in every single relationship in your life.
Yes, it will. And it's very, very important to understand the love the way God defined it to be,
Hmm.
because love cannot be our own definition, because love, you can definitely love things the way if we just like to define it as a feeling. Well, you can have love and a feeling towards something that's definitely not beneficial to you. So
True.
that's why we need to have God's definition of love.
Yep. Not self-seeking. Most definitely not. But nephew, it looks like we have gotten to the point where we're going to have to revisit this in our next episode and expand on this a little bit more. So, in the meantime,
Well, we hope this blesses you. We hope that this has helped you become a better, effective Christian or follower of God. Or if you're on the fence, we hope that this, has helped you understand a little bit more. Like, share, pass this on to somebody else you think this will help. And till next time.
yes, until next time, we'll see you guys later and have a good night.